So let's go over to our source code, and we're going to add the build spec file in the same level as package.json. So let's just create a new file, and we call this build spec.yml. Of course, if you named your file anything different, this should match. And the build spec file just takes in a set of instruction and that you want to run within each phases. So we want to add the version since this is required. And now we want to tell CodeBuild the different phases to run and the command to run. So our first phase will be pre-build, and we want to run the npm install, and here we will install the list of packages in our package.json. The next phase will be our build phase, and again we want to run commands, so let's do npm run build. And to complete this, we will have a post build. And if you remember, in our package.json, we performed a S3 sync and a CloudFront invalidation. In this example, we'll use a S3 copy. So let's do a AWS S3 copy, and we want to copy recursively so we can grab all the files from the build folder to our S3 bucket. And of course, this should be match your S3 bucket name. And we'll append a / at the end just to put it in the root. We also want to do a CloudFront invalidation. So we're going to create, and this is almost identical to what we have in the package.json. Distribution ID, and I'm just going to copy and paste my distribution ID. And in our package.json, we add the path. Since we are running this in a Linux command line, we want to escape this path, and this just makes sure this runs as /star. And that should be it. So we want to perform a npm install. Let's just make sure we have all our commands correct, and a npm build to package or build folder. And then we want to copy recursively everything in our build folder to our S3 bucket. Once that's successful, we want to perform a CloudFront invalidation. So let's add this to Git. I'll just add a comment. And I'll push this to our main branch. And this should trigger our pipeline again. So if we open up CodePipeline, we should see in progress. So if we open this up, and this should be running again. The source stage is usually relatively quick in this. Now this should fail one more time, right? Because we still haven't given the CodeBuild machine the permissions to push to S3 and the permission to create the invalidation. As we expected, our pipeline failed again. Let's take a look at the error message. So just click on View in CodeBuild. And if you scroll all the way down to where we're initiating that command, so we're running the AWS S3 copy, and we're getting access denied. And that's just because the CodeBuild machine doesn't have the permission to push to this S3 bucket. So let's try to fix that. If you scroll all the way down to your build settings and scroll to environment, and we want to look for a service role. So let's open it up. And if you look in the permission policy section, there is already a policy, and this is a list of permissions specific to the CodeBuild machine and how it keeps the log. We're not going to touch that policy itself, but we're going to add a new one. So over to the right, hit add permission and create inline policy. And there's a few ways to do this. We could write the JSON or copy and paste it. One easy way to do this is to select this service. So we want to search for S3. And I know we need I know we need a write permission, so I'm going to collapse this right here, and we need to be able to put objects in that bucket. The next step is to select the resource, and here we can do a wildcard and point to all possible buckets, but you'll see this message, just a warning, it's not best practice. We can get real granular and specify the bucket name. So click on add ARN, and here we just need to copy and paste your bucket name. I already have my bucket name. And for objects, we do need all objects. So this should be star. So your bucket name, and this will create the ARN. Once you have that in place, we're just gonna click add. Another permission that we need is the ability to create CloudFront invalidation. So let's add an additional permission, and the service should be CloudFront. So select CloudFront, and again in the right section we should see create invalidation. Here it is, and we're gonna follow the same steps we did earlier, right? We can either go with all resources or we can get very specific. So I'm gonna hit add ARN, and I just need to copy the distribution ID there, and I'm just gonna paste this and click add. Now we just need to hit review policy, and we're gonna give this a name, and I'm gonna call this S3 CloudFront policy, and it create policy, and that should create your policy. So now we have the permission. We just need to run the pipeline. So if we go back to CodePipeline, select your pipeline, and we're going to release change, and that should initiate a pipeline all over again. And now we have a successful build. Of course, we haven't made any change to our site, so it should be identical. But now we should be able to make some change and automatically have our pipeline run. So let's go back to our source code, and I'm just gonna clear this. I'm just gonna make one tiny change where I'll increment the code by 3. Let me save this, and I'll do a git push. Update source, and let me do a push to our main branch, which should trigger a new pipeline build. So we should see in progress, and we're gonna run this again, and our pipeline is successfully built. Now let's check our website. I'm gonna refresh, and this should be incrementing by 3.